Hey listeners, Elizabeth here. Before we get started, a note on our content. This podcast centers on the history of beauty and fashion, and as such, we often discuss fat phobia, diet culture, and weight loss. Detailed content warnings can be found in the episode description. Links to any photos we discussed during the episode can be found in the show notes, or you can head over to our Instagram at Vanity Veritas Pod. Also, this is an adult show featuring adult themes and language, so bear that in mind if you choose to listen. All right, let's get into it.
So you just have to find your way into the color scheme of the palette of the utopian society of the chromatosphere. Like, what?
We're just doing beat poetry at this point.
Welcome to Vanity Veritas, where three vain friends dive into the history of beauty, fashion, and culture, trying to figure out how we got here and why we care so damn much. We're your hosts, Christina Cole-Geddes,
Elizabeth Urbanczyk,
and Chelsea Feltman. In each episode, one of us will present a topic related to historical fads, fashion icons, and beauty standards in an attempt to connect the past with the present, always asking ourselves, does anything ever really change?
All right, Chelsea, it is time. I need to know where I fit in the world. What are we talking about today? I feel like I need to be categorized.
Get out your draping fabrics, ladies, because today we are talking color season analysis.
Yes!
It's all over TikTok. It's all over Instagram Reels, which are basically just old TikToks. And we've all seen the videos, I assume, of someone, usually a woman, getting draped with pieces of fabric in various colors while an expert color analyst stands over her and either tells her she looks amazing or like a withered corpse.
That is the best when they say that. They're like, we'll talk about it later. Continue.
Do you see how you're just so drab? Do you see the circles under your eyes?
Well, the one that I sent you, the one in Japanese, she'll like it's a translation. So you're looking at the subtitles, and she'll be like, it makes your skin look weak. It makes your image look weak. And you're like, Jesus.
When you wear blue, you have no hope left in your eyes.
So, like, where did this come from? Why is it so popular all of a sudden? So, question for the group. What is your history, if any, with color season analysis? Do you know your season?
No.
My mother does, though.
Did she get her colors done?
She got her colors done at some point in the 80s because my mom is like true like Avon Lady Tupperware party. Like that's like her vibe. So of course she would go and get her colors done.
Right.
And I believe I can't remember exactly, but I think she is a fall. And she's like to try to convince me that I'm a fall, and I'm pretty certain that I am a spring. But again, I've never had a expert. I need to know what the certification process is for this.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that.
I just have to say, I am constantly, like, I have tried so many times to self-diagnose myself as a color, and I can't do it. It's right, like, it's this and like, do I have ADHD?
Well,
and like,
all the different ways we self-diagnose ourselves on TikTok.
Yes. Yeah, good point. Keep that in your back pocket. I cannot officially categorize you, but as a passionate amateur in the art of color analysis, I will do my best, and I hope that like our first ream of hate mail is from color experts who are mad at me for getting it wrong. I really hope that's like the worst faux pas we ever make.
Experts who are here also listening to this pod, listeners, I need you to know that Elizabeth is physically just holding up random objects next to her face.
Is it this? Is this a cool, hold on, I have something blue. Is this a?
Yeah, we're both holding blue objects up to our face in hopes.
Just like, is this it?
Okay.
So, I have become a bit obsessed with this, even as I question its validity and whether it could even be harmful, actually. And when I scroll through social media and I see critiques of this color analysis, a couple of the main arguments I see in its defense are A, well, it's based on the science of color theory, or color theory is a science. Mm-hmm. And B, this isn't new. Color analysis has been going on for decades. It's an old practice.
We've all seen the medieval paintings of some woman in a big, just like giant bonnet holding up drapes in front of her lady.
Yes.
Do you remember that moment when Mary Magdalene had the colored drapes across her?
So yeah, I wanted to look into these claims a little bit more because A, just because something has been around for a long time does not mean that it is correct or good. And B, I mean, I literally had to Google, is color theory science? Because I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And I think if y'all are being honest, you probably don't know either.
I just interject, which is, it is always my favorite thing when I have to Google, is something science?
Is something.
Is blank science?
Is this valid? I just need to know.
No, it turns out the answer to that depends on what you mean by color theory and what you mean by science.
That depends on what the definition of the word is.
So, and in terms of this new popularity, and its popularity over time, I just had the sneaking suspicion that there is more at play here than the science of color and society's desire for women to have more self-esteem. I just thought maybe there's something else going on here. So we'll see. We'll find out. So, brief overview for those who may not know, if you're not addicted to TikTok like I am. Color season analysis is, let's say, a framework, a tool that puts people into one of a number of categories or color seasons based on things like the undertone of their skin, their eye color, hair color, and sometimes other attributes are mentioned, like the level of contrast between their features or how saturated or muted the colors in their features are. Originally, there were 4 seasons: winter, spring, autumn, and summer. Elizabeth, it sounds like that's what it was. That's what your mom had done probably back in the 80s.
Right.
Most people will attribute this to a woman named Carol Jackson. Remember her? She's the author
Carol.
of, she's the author of Color Me Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, it's
so familiar.
Just hang on to your hats. Hang on to your color coordinated hats, ladies. This is the seminal text of color analysis of the 70s and 80s.
Great.
However, she did not come up with this idea. More on that later. The most popular version of this today that you'll see on social media is actually the 12-season color system, which adds some variations on either side of each 4th season to account for the vast variety of human skin tones and features. So, for example, you wouldn't be just an autumn, you'd be typed as a soft, dark, or true autumn. So I'm a dark autumn because my undertone is neutral but leaning warm, but my features are very dark and I have a bit more contrast to them than a true autumn. So I'm almost on the border between autumn and winter. But as I lean more warm toned in my neutral skin, I'm considered to be in the autumn family. But I can borrow some of the more muted shades from the winter palette. I am legally allowed to do that.
Chelsea, it sounds like you're describing astrology to me.
Yeah.
The way that you just went so deep on that, I was like,
Elizabeth, you could not be more on the money. You could not be more on the money, and I want you to hang on to that thought.
I also love that Dark Autumn sounds like the screen name of a goth girl in like 2001.
It's like Dark Willow, yeah.
Like triple X, Dark Autumn, triple X.
I'm leaving Linkin Park lyrics on my away message. I'm not telling you how I feel, but you should be able to
you know what, Chelsea, don't troll me like that, okay? It was a tough time, adolescence.
I'm going to give a very, very, very quick historical overview of the origins of color season analysis. This will not be complete by any means. I had so much cool information that I thought was cool on this, and then I was like, other people are not going to think this is cool. But big shout out here to the historian Nicole Rudolph. She has a video essay called The Controversial History of Color Season Analysis, which I recommend everybody watch. It was hugely helpful as a starting point for me in sort of situating myself in a historical time frame for this. So, what are these origins? Color theory as a broad concept is probably ancient. Aristotle talked about the different properties of different colors. Painters in the Renaissance had philosophies about color that we might now look at as the origins of modern color theory. Sir Isaac Newton in the 1600s did experiments with prisms, and he was the first one to identify Roy G. Biv. So thanks, Sir Isaac Newton, for that. It's not until the mid 1800s, though, with the rise of industrial manufacturing, that we start to see the beginnings of modern color systems or color spaces, which are these kind of elaborate systems of organizing and ordering colors according to various dimensions and properties and attributes. So it's almost like a system of music theory or a musical scale, if that makes sense. Like, we've got all these colors, we've got all these pitches and sounds. Let's organize them in some sort of, according to some sort of metric that makes sense.
And that's called color spaces?
This is like under the umbrella of color theory. There is things that sometimes you'll see them called color systems and sometimes color spaces. And
I feel like I want to use that all the time now, just for no fucking reason.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'm working on these color spaces
I'm trying
in my room.
Yeah, I'm just curating a color space.
Ugh.
What a horrible title for a Pinterest board.
Oh, doing it
Curating
immediately.
A color space.
But
It's
it
like
was
conscious
really,
uncoupling.
really fascinating to look into these, because it's like, it's a whole world I didn't know about. And it's pretty amazing. I had can't get into all this detail, but yeah, super interesting. There are dimensions of color, and some of these color spaces, they think about color as three-dimensional objects, sort of on three axes of which they can be measured.
Oh, no. See, this is why I left math in high school, because I had Mr. Workman literally looked at me and he said, math's about to get theoretical. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out, my guy.
Peace.
So wait, hang on. I just need to. I feel stupid, but I don't understand. Are we going to go into more about what color spaces and color theory? Am I looking at something? Is there a physical descriptor, or are we talking?
Is this just like a
music
series
theory?
of swatches?
Yeah,
Like, and they
I'm
would
thinking of like Pantone colors, or like a prism.
Yes. So the reason that Pantone colors can be in any sort of order from light to dark or muted to saturated is because of this color space idea.
Okay.
And that just starts in the 1800s, where they decide to like organize colors.
In the modern sense.
Okay.
In this like scaled up industrial sense. Before that, you have things like painters talking about light and dark and agreeable colors and colors that fight with each other, but not in this like really measured scientific way. As a musician, it really reminds me of like at some point in the 16 to 1800s, music theorists decided, we're going to codify what makes harmony. We're gonna put the pitches into a scale and say that this is the way they work. Kinda
or like
that.
nowadays when you're writing down like hex numbers to get like a very specific shade, you're looking at that like map of color, and it's like, so it's sort of like a map of all the different hues and how do we organize them from light to dark, from one end of the prism to the other.
And it's important. Yes. And there are different systems of doing this, like the red, cyan, magenta, yellow is one. Right. There are ones that have, it's a whole world. It's really interesting, but it's important to remember that what those are systems that humans have made in order to organize something that is very subjective, right? Something that we perceive with our subjective eyes.
This is that kind of thing where it's so deeply ingrained that I was like, no, it's science. It's just the way things are organized. But like,
who decided to organize them that way?
Whoa.
And also it's that eternal philosophical question of like, is my purple your purple?
Yes, I was just about to say it. Like, what's my color?
We don't know. We will never know if the way I see red with my eyes is the same way you see red. We'll just know that we're looking at the same thing.
Like a mantis shrimp would have a very different color space than us because of the visual spectrum it can see.
And all mantis shrimps are bright springs, actually. That's not true. They're too small. You can't drape them.
I can't.
Tiny drapes underwater. Just you in a full scuba suit, just like bubbles everywhere. Tiny drapes up against a mantis shrimp. That's
how did she get carpal tunnel? She was knitting all of them.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
All right, so let's get to the color wheel. We've all seen the color wheel, right?
Sure.
The modern color wheel is developed in the 1850s by a French chemist, Michel Chevreul. He was, and I thought this was really interesting, the director of dyes at the National Textile Factory in Paris.
How chic.
Right?
Director of dyes.
So, no, think about it. This is the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Dye manufacturers need a way to sort of catalog their products and sell their products to people.
Right.
We get the color wheel. It's a very practical tool for not only showing prospective clients the range of colors that they have, but for like organizing and evaluating and ensuring consistency of their own dyes that they produce. And so other scientists, particularly in Germany, and there's one guy in the United States between the mid to late 19th century into the early 20th century, other color systems will be developed. And they mostly have really industrial applications. They're still used this way today. There's something called the Munsell color system, which builds on Chevreul and some other stuff that happened in Europe. And where it's mostly used today is like USDA, like for foods that need to be graded according to what color they are, or like if a beer brewer needs to make sure that all its amber beers are like within this very defined shade range in order to be sold. They have very like unsexy applications. So to say they're real and they're practical, but I don't think they were ever intended to be tools of beauty, shall we say.
Interesting. Wow. Sorry. I'm having a real aha moment. But just like that, right. These weren't designed for us to be how we are physically seeing our faces.
Right. Right. A brief detour, not a detour, a parallel thing that happens here at around this time. As chemists and physicists are developing these color systems, some other scientists and philosophers start dabbling in color therapy and color symbolism. So in the late 1800s, something called chromotherapy becomes popular. And this
Can't fucking wait for this.
This is the idea.
Can't wait.
I just love how fucking woo-woo this is starting to get.
I know.
I both love and loathe anything woo-woo.
And I think in its origins, it was much more woo-woo. But in that way that like so this coincides interestingly with the rise of photography as a technology. So I think it's pretty interesting that often when there is a new technology, especially it seems in this era, there's a lot of very well-meaning scientists or philosophers who kind of want to like very earnestly research all the possibilities of that technology. And looking back, a lot of it seems like, what did you think? It was like fucking sorcery? Like what, sorry, it's not magic, it's photography. But to them, it like there was no distinction, I guess.
Right,
I don't know. Maybe that's...
Well, not even that. It's just sort of like anytime a new technology comes along, philosophers are the people who come along and be like, okay, well then what are the uses and implications?
Right.
Like it can, like photography can turn into revenge porn. Like there are ways you have to see all the different ways that certain things can spin out. So like, I get it. They're responsible for thinking of all the different options so that the people who are like, technology is amazing, let's move forward. And they're like, maybe we talk about that at a mom one more time.
Somebody has to test the limits, or somebody in this case was like, maybe different colors of light can cure different illnesses, which is what chromotherapy is.
Wait, but this is interesting because now we have like red light therapy there's a lot of data behind it.
We do. And I don't know if we owe that to this. I think most of what they did back then has been debunked.
You're telling me if I don't just have a prism reflecting on me that it's not going to do the same thing as infrared light?
Yes.
Why are you coming from my purple light? I'm sitting here, listeners, under my purple light because my schmishmexa allows me to change the color of my light bulbs.
But Elizabeth, are you using it to cure your leprosy?
Yes, leprosy.
I
Get out of
talk
here.
About it on the pod, but
I'm so sorry to out you as a leper. I didn't. It was not my place to do that.
That's why I work in an audio medium.
All right. So chromotherapy arises at this time. And I want us to just put a pin in the idea that there is always a kind of woo-woo element to this color science. It never really goes away. And some of it might have valid applications, but a big underpinning of color therapy is that there is symbolism behind color. It's kind of impossible to divorce our biases around color from like what we think that color is going to do to us physically and mentally. So this is inherently subjective and it varies from culture to culture. So it's a little bit iffy, if you know what I mean. Why do I mention this? Because as I said before, when people say color theory is science, we have to be clear about what do we mean by color theory and what do we mean by science. I think that people have a tendency to interpret the word science to mean something that is universally and like unequivocally true. Mm-hmm. When in fact, science is more like a process of testing things and making hypotheses and observing evidence. It's not like gravity. Science can observe gravity. Gravity is a natural law. So we have these observations of color and these ideas about color. It doesn't make those ideas themselves universally true.
Elizabeth and I are staring like we are two undergrad students with a very serious professor, and we are like, yes.
A 30-year tenured professor, and we're like, I feel like I missed an assignment, or maybe I should have taken a 101 course.
I
thought I was in freshman algebra. What happened?
Are you with me though on the basic idea here?
Yes.
I'm a little confused about the gravity comparison.
I guess I just mean that if someone were to say color theory is science, I would say color theory is an observation. It's a way of looking at color.
Yeah, it is. It's an observation. Yeah.
It's not.
It's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Interpretation.
Yes. Colors exist.
Yeah.
And they are real, but our ideas about them are not objective. No matter how much we want to use science to codify and organize and quantify these things, our ideas about color are so wrapped up in cultural and personal subjectivity.
As opposed to gravity, which is a natural law, science can prove it.
Exactly.
And gravity is
objective. Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Precisely.
I'm with you. Thank you for your office hours, Professor Chelsea. Really appreciate it. Really understanding the material a lot more now.
Really excited for that Nobel laureate situation.
All right. So let's talk about how these color systems start to be used in beauty and fashion. So beginning in the late 1800s, so actually pretty quickly after Chercheur develops the color wheel, which we talked about a moment ago, women's magazines and newspapers start to publish these lists of color do's and don'ts for women, sort of telling women based on very broad descriptions of complexion or hair and skin, what color bonnets they should and shouldn't wear.
God damn it. Why do we love a do and don'ts list?
I'm talking like the color wheel has been in circulation for like 2 years, and this is already being used to market things to women.
Of course it is.
Right?
Of course it is.
We love a list of saying don't. Like I can't think of a time in my life when I didn't see a list of like 8 things not to wear if you have hips and being like, I must know.
Is this like the original Cosmopolitan, like
100%.
Day and night do and don'ts?
Yes. This was a left. But anyway, the magazines, they really get us.
They really get us. They've been getting us good since the 1800s, that's for sure. In 1881, a woman named Maria Oakey Dewing publishes a book called Beauty in Dress. And I actually have it. I found it. But first I want to go to, there was a publication called The Art Amateur. And it publishes an article about Miss Oakey's new book, saying it's like the most important book for ladies to have this season. And I'll read a little bit to you. So here's a little, and it's basically an excerpt from the book.
And remind me what year this is, sorry?
This is 1881.
Fantastic.
Damn.
There are several types of the red-haired, and each requires a different, in quotes, treatment. Red hair with blue eyes must be differently managed from red hair with gray or green or brown eyes. The following are the colors to be chosen for red hair: white of a creamy tone, black, invisible green.
Pardon?
Yep, invisible green.
It's another good screen name.
Rich bottle green, rich blue green, plum color, amethyst, brownish purple, pale yellow. She gives a few more. The colors to be avoided for red hair are blue of all shades, blue-white, pale green, scarlet or all bright reds, bright rose pink, all violet pinks, blue purple, and lavender. And then she notes, all pinks approaching a violet shade are painful with red hair, but especially where the eyes are brown and the complexion of that shell-like beauty that often accompanies this type. And she goes on and on to say, like, people with this color hair and eyes should wear these colors and not wear these colors. And it's really interesting. It's kind of like the first color seasons, but kind of more simplified. It's more based on this more broad idea of complexion or coloring.
There's something I love so much about a sort of pre-feminist framing of advice for women.
Oh, yeah.
Because nowadays it's very like women could do whatever. Like we have the general sort of like overall philosophy, like women could do whatever the fuck they want. But we didn't have that at the time. So it's not suggestions. It's
commands.
It's like
Right.
commands. It's like, yes. And like, if you have red hair and you wear a lavender color, you are an ugly piece of shit. And you need to know that. Like,
Well-
it's so aggressive with the way that it like lays it out for you. Like it's a recipe, like a cake recipe.
Yes.
Like, do not deviate.
And I sort of think, I know the language has softened, but I think that when I watch people get like color analyzed today, there's still a fair amount of that in there. Like, these are your colors. You can't wear this. You can, but you shouldn't. Like, it's really, I think, still kind of in there. And I think people do kind of take their color season as like
Gospel. Yeah.
as gospel. Yeah.
All I could think about, though, when you were saying those too, was like when you started to get into the negative ones of, God forbid, you are not from a wealthy enough family that you could afford to buy something that was of your color. And this still exists, right? But like, my God, what do you do? What do you do if you have no other recourse and you have to wear the color that makes you look like a fucking piece of white dog shit?
But does it? That's the other thing too, is it's like,
Right, like, is that even
fucking
real?
does it? Like, is
According to
this
whom?
real anxiety that somebody is having? They're like, oh no, I can't wear the right color because,
But I
but
think
it's like,
it does create real anxiety because, like, it's like so much, right? Of like, you don't even know that it's something you need to worry about until someone publishes it. And suddenly
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I just never thought about this thing until, like, I never thought about the hair on my big toe until
Right.
Cosmopolitan told me.
I didn't know hip dips were a thing until I read about them in an article I think there's an entire economy built, Christina, on exactly what you're talking about, which is inventing new anxieties for women that usually are solved or addressed in by them spending money somehow.
yeah.
I want to read a little excerpt from her book, Beauty in Dress, which also comes out in 1881. And then I'm curious if you'll pick up on the same thing that I did. Here, she says, it would be easy to suggest 100 charming costumes for a red-haired woman with brown eyes. We will content ourselves with a dozen or so. For a winter reception dress, an olive green velvet with a trimming of dark fur, an olive velvet bonnet with feathers a shade lighter, and a lining of old gold, gloves of old gold. For walking, a black velveteen with black bonnet lined with delicate shell pink, strings lined with the same, black gloves. For walking, brownish purple cloth with dark fur, bonnet of black felt or beaver with ribbon trimmings lined with dark amber, gloves to match cloth. For walking, black cashmere trimmed with lace, bonnet, and gloves of stone gray, with a black crow's feather introduced among the gray trimmings of the bonnet, a bunch of violets in the buttonhole. And she goes on to describe the rest of the dozen outfits. Tell me your thoughts.
I mean, those are very expensive materials, first off.
She's telling people what to buy.
Oh, and like, such specificity.
Yes.
It's not just buy a black dress. It's not just everyone needs a white button down and a black dress, which, like, God forbid you don't own now.
You also need a pink trimmed bonnet with matching bonnet strings.
And violets in the buttonhole.
And violets in the buttonhole.
If you don't
Another
do
great
that.
screen name.
No, but I was so struck by that. It's almost like a Pinterest board
Right.
of outfit inspo. It occurred to me, I don't know if Maria Oki Doing is a real person.
It sounds like an agony aunt or
Right.
Yeah.
something like that. It sounds like a Dear Abby of this like columnist that has this fake name who is just there to fill a page in a ladies magazine and and give them some ideas of, we always go back to Downton Abbey, kids, but this is, what was the name of the columnist that Spratt Cassandra Jones.
Oh my God!
Right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
like because that was what he wrote, right? He wrote like the ladies' advice column, and it's like, here's what you should be wearing for spring.
Right. This is
and it's
exactly
like
what I was thinking of. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
It's that kind of thing where it's like, it's just filling a page in a ladies' magazine of like, here are the latest fashions, and if you have red hair and wear lavender, you are again an ugly piece of shit. So like maybe there was some sort of like cahoots with garment makers, but sometimes it was just like, I feel like it was just like filling
fodder.
Fodder to fill a ladies' magazine to give them some ideas of what to wear. The same way that, again, nowadays magazines of like Vogue will tell you what to wear. Everybody, like I frequently Google, can I still wear my Fry slouchy boots? Or did I spend it? Are they back? Thank God. I spent $350 on those boots. I want to bring them back.
I spent so much time last week near
Everyone's
NYU.
Wearing cowboy boots.
Everyone's wearing cowboy boots and slouchy Fry boots and cargo skirts. And let me tell you.
Oh, no cargo skirts. But
the cargo skirts are truly sending all of us back to Mary Kate and Ashley go to Paris. I cannot. Anyway, the trend cycle.
The advice of like what to wear each season, like that's all arbitrary. That's what's happening down the runway, what's being, so I'm not surprised that there's just like a person writing for a magazine being like, green trimmed with beaver fur is the look for fall, but only if you're a brunette.
It doesn't really matter what the looks are. What matters is that it's probably driving women to go out and buy these things.
Mm-hmm.
So we've hit on the two things that I really wanted to highlight here, which is that this seems highly subjective, and it seems like it's trying to drive women to go out and shop. Now, in the 1920s and 30s, Max Factor starts offering color analysis in stores, in department stores, to help women purchase makeup. Because makeup is now a thing that respectable women can wear, and they need to know their colors. So this is where we start to get the idea of cool and warm undertones in skin as something that you need to know. So I see Christina like...
I have no idea what I am still to this day. And I am someone who has had makeup applied professionally to my face since I was like 14, and I got nothing.
I have a heart attack every time I try to buy foundation because I have a very neutral undertone. Everything I buy, it ends up being too golden or too pink. And I'm like, for the love of God, please just give me a nice neutral.
Sing it, sister. I'm neutral.
Full heart attack in every time I went to Sephora. I bought really expensive foundation. It looked fine in store. I got home and I was like, I am a golden faced weirdo. And I had to, there's nothing better than having to return very expensive makeup because you're like, oh, thank God. I don't want to develop a $40 a month foundation habit. But no, it is the worst trying to find foundation that matches everything. Lipstick, other stuff, I'm fine.
I'm dying to know now. So in these department stores, they start offering this, and I love department stores. Is this like a major draw?
I don't know that it's a draw to department stores, but it's definitely a draw to selling makeup. It improves makeup sales.
Mm-hmm. Of course it does, because we just want someone to tell us what to do.
And we all have been in that chair getting a demo and walked away saying, I'm not going to buy anything, and walked away with 12 things. Because once they get you, you got. You're not walking away without spending some money.
I'll do anything to make myself look better.
I'll do anything not to have an awkward confrontation with a salesperson.
Well, yes, I do need to buy that $50 mascara. Yeah. I mean, it made my eyelashes look fucking bomb.
Spice lip liner, you say?
So yeah, this new trend in color analysis absolutely tracks with this change in consumer habits. Like we have department stores now. We wear makeup now. We need to sell makeup to women who've never had to swatch makeup on their faces. So fast forward a little bit. In the early 1940s, a woman named Suzanne Cago, allegedly, she says, comes up with the 4 basic color seasons. She is also a big proponent of color therapy.
Killer.
And her approach focuses a lot more on improving the wearer's mood and inner well-being through color than she is with like straight up beauty and looking good.
I'm going to defend her. I would rather have someone tell me marigold makes me happy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. she is cited as the main inspiration for none other than Carol Jackson, who releases her famous book in 1973, Color Me Beautiful. Now, I want to be clear. By the time of the book's publication, Jackson was already running a pretty successful business for several years, charging people for these color analysis classes. But most of her money was made by training more color analysts to do their own color analysis.
It's an MLM.
Ladies, it's an
Oh
MLM.
my God. It's an MLM. I'm sorry to jump on your
Ring the
reveal.
MLM bell, 'cause
Oh
we're
my
here.
God.
I don't know how I didn't see this coming. It's so obvious.
It's so obvious.
So
It was staring
obvious.
us in the face all along.
Oh my God, I love it. Because if you can, it's like a cult. If you can hook one of them, if you can be like, hey, you like these ugly leggings? You want to convince other ladies to buy these ugly leggings? You could be your own boss. That is fantastic.
You too could have a champagne Cadillac.
I'm also just upset. Like, it's there's a sucker born every minute. And like, again, we all sort of semi believe in this, but I'm like, who was the first person that she sat down in a chair and was like, see this green? That is the wrong green. This is your green. And like, got him. And then they were like, oh, every woman needs to know.
But you know what's crazy is the first thing I was thinking of is like, we are sort of low key doing this on TikTok for free. Like, it is sort of the same MLM mindset of like these people who are following all of the color analysis and then they're like, I bought the books, I learned, and now I'm an I feel like I see it a lot with stylists now too, where it's like people who worship stylists then become sort of like fashion influencers, and then they become enough of a fashion influencer that they're offering styling sessions on their own, and then like the cycle just continues, which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And a certain amount of giving away a certain amount of free content.
Yes.
So that people will eventually pay you for that.
I am fascinated by that pipeline though. This like,
doesn't it make sense though?
Yes. And especially I feel like I see it all the time where people are like, I've done my colors and now I think I can diagnose
do yours.
Yeah.
Yep. So here we are. I read Color Me Beautiful, so you don't have to. But I am going to make you experience parts of the joy that is Color Me Beautiful. So this is going to take a second because I need to drop some images into the chat.
Oh, I can't wait.
But here we go. Here we go.
Salivating.
All right. Here comes the cover. Tell me what you see.
Oh, listeners, this cover.
I remember this cover. Oh my God. We are looking at 4 women of the, I want to say late 70s, early 80s. When was this published?
73. This could be a later edition. Yeah.
No, I think this is pretty 70s.
It's like I think this, I don't have the publication date. This could be a later printing.
I want to point out it's a quadrant of photos. There's 4. 3 of these women are solidly white.
Yeah.
And one woman is
maybe Italian?
Maybe Italian, like a cafe au lait best.
Yeah, she looks either Hispanic or extremely. She is a woman of color, but not that much.
Yeah, like she might just be a white woman with a lot of tanning bedtime. Like these women are very fair.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
There is one Black woman featured in this book. And I think at this point, the thinking was all Black women are winters, which is now everyone is quick to correct that that's not true. Black people have just as many undertones in their skin as anybody else. But at this time, there was not such nuance, not such inclusivity.
Also, under an autumn is a white woman with like maybe reddish brown hair wearing a red outfit. The summer is a fair woman who looks like she's in a cult.
She looks like the wife of a televangelist.
Yeah,
she looks like the wife who's standing by someone who is admitting that he had sex with a male intern.
Mousy brown hair and pearls. A spring is a white blonde with kind of tanner skin.
Nordic.
Very Nordic, very
she looks
very
like
sandy.
She looks like she's an ABBA.
She does.
And then the winter is our are
ethnically ambiguous.
Ethnically ambiguous, non-white.
At best. And she also, unsurprisingly to the time, looks seductive.
Yes.
Very seductive.
She's very,
Amanda Seales, is it Amanda Seales? Yeah, she does a great bit about some white people she sat next to on a plane where she said, these people were European white. These people look like they sprang from an Alp and just rode a sleigh down singing Frozen and into the tarmac. And I'm like, that's what this Miss Spring looks like. Miss Spring looks.
Yes.
Can I see these other pictures?
Any
You sent
other
us some
observations? Yeah.
We've got two others. A Color Me Beautiful that says, discover your natural beauty through the colors that make you look great and feel fabulous.
Yes.
You know what else I notice is, except for our friend the Winter,
the Winter,
they all have very, and even Winter I would maybe include in this, but they all have very like sharp, petite features.
Yeah.
Like nobody here has like a big, like nobody here has like a big nose or super, like they're just very angular faces is what I'm seeing.
I mean,
here.
It looks like she used a bunch of models, basically.
Yeah, of course.
Very, very 1970s, 80s models.
And also, you've also sent us a page of Margaret. Very lovely,
sweet
girl.
Margaret.
She looks like a Park Slope mom. Love her. And they have her in the wrong color, which is shades of like orange, and the right color, which is shades of blue. And I'm here to tell you, she looks fine in both.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
she looks great.
Wear what you want, Margaret. You look great.
If anything, I think the orange makes her look friendlier, and the blues and the purples make her look a little more severe. But
it's also interesting. The angles are very different. So like in the one that's the wrong color, it's like much closer up. It's like an upward facing angle. And it definitely looks like
she's like fully facing the camera.
Yeah, it looks like she caught being like, huh.
Nobody gets a before photo that's like also posed. It's always like somebody, like, it's always like a before and after weight picture where it's somebody like not posed, looking real slouchy, tummy sticking out, and then it's somebody like, I'm in a CrossFit class, like 50 pounds lighter.
And the right and for Miss Margaret here, the right color is very much glamour shots.
Yeah.
Of the mall.
Oh yeah.
80s headshot. Love it.
All right. So I'm going to read you the questionnaire that opens this book.
Great.
Oh, can't wait.
I love a question.
This is the first step in finding the colors that are perfect for you. Is a self-evaluation. All right.
Should we be writing these down? We're both sitting here with pens and notebooks.
Go ahead.
I'm ready.
All right.
Can you wear any color and look terrific?
Who's asking?
Do you create a good first impression all the time?
Okay, fuck you, Carol.
Do you have a closet full of clothes, but nothing to wear? Do you feel guilty about spending money on clothes? Are you a compulsive clothes buyer? Are there any mistakes hanging in your closet?
Sorry, full side note. All I could think of was the story of Dorian Corey, who had a dead body in her closet for like 30 years. That's a mistake in your closet. Mistake. But like the dress that I don't wear very often.
Yeah. Also, Carol, get your hand out of my fucking ass. Like, God damn it.
It's not over. It's not over.
Oh, God.
When you shop, do you have direction or do you wander aimlessly through the store? Are you sure that everything you buy will be smashing and will blend with the rest of your wardrobe? Can you pack one suitcase for a 2-week trip?
Yes, that I can do. I can do.
I'm spectacular at that.
Yeah.
But stop negging me, Carol.
Do you buy too much makeup or no makeup at all because you aren't sure what is just right for you? If you color your hair, are you positive that it is the most flattering shade?
Do you walk out of the house looking like a piece of shit?
Are you excited about the way you look? And finally, my favorite question. Do you have colorisma?
Oh!
Get out. We're done.
Get
I'm
out.
sorry. We're gonna finish the
laptop.
episode. I'm not doing it.
Do you have colorisma?
Colorisma. Ladies, I don't think you do. I think you need help. If any one of your answers does not please you, writes Jackson, Color Me Beautiful can help.
Oh my God.
I just feel like she just like, I feel like at every turn I was like, Yes? No, I'm so sorry. No.
You're the girl in the commercial where it's like, has this ever happened to you? And you're like, there's gotta be a better way. Like, that was fully you.
Absolutely. Like, every turn, I just felt like she was looking at me and I was like, no, I like the color of my hair. And she was like, I don't think you have a good mirror.
Are you sure?
It's so snide. It's also very like vitamin to Vegemin. Are you tired, run down, listless? Do you poop out at parties?
It's so leading. Like, who can say, yes, I look great all the time? Like, no one can answer yes to all of these questions. Or you can, and God bless you. But
do you know what? Yeah. Like, now I'm determined to answer yes to all those questions, regardless of how I feel about anything in my closet or how I look, because I'm just like, God, stop.
Fuck you, Carol.
Yeah, fuck off, Carol.
Can I read you another excerpt from early on in the book?
Please.
Can't wait.
That I found truly spectacular. Perhaps you have never thought much about color, but I promise you that color has more impact than you ever imagined. Artists have studied its secrets and used them to make their masterpieces come alive. The world's most beautiful women and men have discovered its power to make the world regard them with awe. Why do you picture Elizabeth Taylor in vivid, clear colors, royal blue, emerald green, and Candice Bergen in pastels? Why did your friend look fabulous on Monday, yet why did you walk right past her on Tuesday without saying hello because you didn't notice her?
Because she wore lavender colors and she's a redhead.
Literally, yes, Elizabeth. Why do you always reach for that certain dress in your own closet? The answer is color.
It's definitely not fit. It's definitely has nothing to do with it being comfortable.
It has
and
nothing
enjoying
to do with
it.
you being a fucking asshole to your friend.
Like, it has nothing to do with the fact that you have like face aphasia. And
she got a haircut. I didn't notice.
Oh
my God. It's so mean.
It's so mean, you guys.
Meanly worded.
It's so mean. So the rest of the book is divided into an overview of all the seasons, and it has lots of anecdotes and success stories. There are questionnaires and tests for self-diagnosing your color season. There are sections on discovering your clothing personality, and interestingly, dressing for different body types, and shopping tips. One of my favorites. So yeah, go ahead.
Color, dressing different colors for different body types?
No, she kind of gets a little bit away from the color in those chapters, and she talks about.
Of course she does, because Carol's a fucking genius. She's
and she
brilliant.
needs to fill a book. She needs to fill a book. So let's talk about silhouette.
So I wasn't sure if I was going to insert this here, but are you familiar with the Kibbe body types, which are also kind of a TikTok
my ass,
thing?
Chelsea. Of course I am, because someone has to tell me what I need to be.
When you read this book, you will notice that the body types that she introduces for, what kind of clothes each person should buy are very similar to the Kibbe types. In fact, David Kibbe was one of her students. So
talk to me about the Kibbe types. I am unfamiliar, I think.
The Kibbe
I'm going to throw this shit across the room.
Christina, do you want to take this on?
No.
Okay, I got it. I got you. The Kibbe types
She's too emotional.
Similarly to how people can be classified into a color season, and that tells them what colors to wear. Mm-hmm. The Kibbe types are a set of archetypal body types that this stylist named David Kibbe, who apparently was a color analyst, developed in the 80s based on different Hollywood actresses. So there's a set number of body types that you can be. And once you know your body type, you can buy the right kinds of clothes and always look fabulous, allegedly. Now, I'm sure you can imagine what the problems with this might be.
Oh, sure. But also, as somebody who walks around describing myself as an apple shape, I get it.
But it's more detailed than it being an apple or a pear.
Yes.
The thing I find interesting about Kibbe type that so one of the things is how flesh lays on your body. Mm-hmm. So I'm very petite, but
that sounds like you're making a dress out of human skin. How flesh lays. I feel like we've gone in a totally different direction on the clothes. I missed something.
But flesh, some people are very sinewy and don't have a lot of flesh on their body. So when they're slim, you just see muscle versus even at my slimmest, my body has flesh where I will never look skeletal. Like it will be very difficult for me to look skeletal.
Axes for the Kibbe systems are like, do you have a long vertical line or a short vertical line? Do you have width or narrowness? And is your width from your bones or is it from having flesh on your bones?
Right. Which is interesting because like I'm someone who actually has like quite short bones.
Yes.
And like there are things about this that I find helpful because it took some Elizabeth's like cackling.
Well, this
She's
is
literally left the microphone.
This is the thing. I have also had someone tell me my Kibbe type, and as much as I hate it, it does kind of help.
Right, but then I'm also like, this is crazy.
I have short bones.
Elizabeth, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
You know what? Tell me that you have long bones without telling me you have long bones.
Oh God! It just hold on. Wait,
listen. I have the body of a corgi. I need some help. Let it be.
It's like the scene in Mean Girls where they're like, "My nail beds suck. My bones are too
my eyelids are so fat."
Like this is actually such a good point of like only. I just feel like we could be in such a different place if I didn't know my bones were short.
Oh my God, you're telling me. You're telling me.
If I never considered, I think if I went to my husband right now and I was like, "Do you think you have long or short bones?" He would look at me like I
Are
had
you
16
high?
head.
He'd be like, I'm taking our child away for 2 weeks. We're sending you out to the mountains. Oh my God.
Touch grass.
So yeah, she gets into the body types and how to dress for them, and you'll be not surprised to know that all of her advice relates to what is going to be the most slimming, because of course,
right,
because of the 1980 of it all. She has shopping tips. This quickly gets into like a whole lifestyle book, which like, yes, it's an MLM. It's a cult. Of course it's a lifestyle. Yeah. One of my favorite shopping tips was always be well groomed when you shop, which I have failed at many times.
So many times.
She has advice on decluttering your closet. And the last chapter is called Let Yourself Glow. And it promises a transformation from the outside in once you apply these things you have learned, as well as for some reason advice on like how to choose flowers and stationery for your color personality. Because I guess that matters.
It's just becoming an aesthetic. It's just like developing a full aesthetic.
Yes, absolutely.
It's completely just Instagram. She's just literally a book of Instagram of like, this is how my life looks.
Except you have to just like imagine the Instagram in your head because it won't exist for another 60 years.
You're just cutting out things from magazines and posting them on your fucking mood board.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's all very familiar. It's like become your best self by looking your hottest.
God, why? Why is it always this?
Yep. She spends so much time. I found this really interesting. She spends so much time in the book talking about the compliments she received once she got her colors, the compliments her students receive once they start wearing their correct colors, which is also like really interesting to me because I think on some level, this is supposed to be about internal validation and just like feeling good for yourself, but also you're supposed to get compliments and that's how you know it's working. I have another excerpt I'd love to read.
Again, can't wait.
Ready? Help, said Kathy. I need a new image. Kathy was overweight and came to class in blue jeans with her blonde hair in 2 ponytails. At age 33, she obviously hadn't found herself. By the end of the 6-week course, she had shed 15 pounds, sported a chic short haircut, and looked fabulous in her new makeup and a skirt and blouse in her colors. 6 weeks later, she had lost 15 more pounds and had a whole new identity. Kathy was one of my first students, and 6 years later, I'm so sorry. 6 years later, I am happy to report that she is still skinny, looks great, and has obtained her credentials as a therapist.
I need to leave. I need to leave this Zoom.
This is just all fucking horseshit. I'm going to riot.
I mean, I was like, you shouldn't be a 33-year-old woman wearing your pigtails, but
yeah. I judged her for that too. Let's not lie.
I fully judged her for the pigtails. And listen, if you want to rock pigtails, who am I to judge you? But I will judge you. But then it just went down a hill. It went down the skinnier is better hill. I'm like, she was probably a cute little chubby blonde gal looking great. Just needed a haircut and maybe some new makeup.
Is losing weight too quickly, and someone should like be concerned.
Totally.
Yes, she lost 15 pounds in 6 weeks,
and then she lost it again. And this is
the whole idea too of like, by the way, if you wear amethyst and it's your color, magic will happen. Like we will
right.
Death becomes your life. Like,
and the proof of that is that you will be skinny.
Right. Like that. This whole idea of like the death becomes her, that you will like take this magic elixir that is the color palettes.
Yes.
And that you will then like melt away all of your abusive thoughts about yourself that are clearly being stored in your fat cells. Like, it's such a fucked way of thinking that it's like, if you're slimmer, if your color is better, and then like that resulted in her becoming a therapist, that like, by the way, now she has a new career and she's highly successful. Like, that is so insane.
But at the same, I will say too, it's the thing that we are all looking for, the thing that we can glom onto that will make us get our shit together.
Yes, we all want there to be one magic thing that we can pay somebody $1,500 and it's gonna fix all our problems.
Correct. We have all purchased either a device or a product or a seminar or a class. Be like, this is going to be the thing that is going to change.
This is going to turn it all around.
This is going to turn it around. This is going to make this problem go away. And after this problem goes away, I'll be better. And so far be it for me to be mad at someone who's just like, I just need someone to tell me what colors look good on me so I can stop worrying about that. And maybe that will turn my life around. That will make this person I'm attracted to notice me. Maybe that will help me get the promotion. If I just, like, this will be the thing. This will be the thing. I know it to be true. It wasn't true for all the other things, but maybe this is going to be the thing that makes me feel better and gets, moves my life forward. So it's like, it's so disheartening how fucking real that is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There is a moment in the book that harkens back to like the color theory as a science, but is actually kind of like woo-woo argument. She quotes a color professional, a color theorist named Johannes Itten, who wrote a book called The Elements of Color. I looked into him. He was an early member of the Bauhaus movement. So I was like, rad, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
He taught classes on color. I looked into this text, into his book. From what I could glean, his basic argument, and basically Jackson quotes him as like proof that like the color experts at the highest level of expertise say that women should know their subjective color palettes because it will make them look beautiful, which I don't think is what he is saying, but I truly don't know because I looked at the book. So from what I can tell, his basic argument, his thesis is that most artists / designers, which are the students he's working with at the Bauhaus, have an innate sort of subjective color palette that comes either from just their own perception of the world or from what colors are intrinsic to them or look good on them. And what he was trying to teach them through his work was to draw from what he would call like a universalist or a more objective timbre source, like selection of timbres. Beyond this, I have to tell you.
Sorry, we need to go back to office hours. What?
I really tried. I tried to read through this book and I was like, am I stupid?
It's theory. Theory is the fucking worst.
I don't even think it's theory. He actually was fired from the Bauhaus for being too mystical.
So it wasn't theory. It was just epic bullshit.
But let me read you a little taste of this.
Cool. And we're gonna pay so much attention and we're gonna really try to get it.
Really? You need to get it, guys.
Got it.
If subjective timbre is significant of a person's inner being, then much of his mode of thought, feeling, and action can be inferred from his color combinations. Intrinsic constitution and structures are reflected in the colors, which are generated by dispersion and filtration of the white light of life and by electromagnetic vibrations in the psychophysiological medium of the individual.
Copy pasta.
I think we can all agree that is some words.
All I can think of is a mighty wind.
Literally, it's the next bullet point on my. We are witches in nature's colors.
Wink.
No, let me keep going. It really, really goes there.
Oh,
Are you ready?
God.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Buckle up. When the individual dies, he blanches. His face and body lose color as the light of life is extinguished. The dead, soulless matter of the corpse is devoid of chromatic emanation. What?
Listen, we are rocking the screen names. Chromatic Emanation. Is that a screen name or is that a band? Which
That
is
sounds
it?
like another jam band.
Chromatic Emanation.
Honestly, can't wait for our roster. By the end of this, we're really going to have like an amazing festival going. I love, and listen, I know because I've done it, because I sometimes go to the white room, is what I call it in my brain, where I've just lost my train of thought and I have to get back. And I know how to ramble like no one else. And I will truly, like, so you just have to find your way into the color scheme of the palette of the utopian society of the chromatosphere. Like, what?
The grand universal ecstasy of our... We're just doing beat poetry at this point.
I love that this is who she's quoting for like legitimacy.
Oh my God, I forgot that's what
I totally forgot too that she was.
This
that
is her like
her.
studious like little like citation.
Put it in the bibliography, girlfriend.
And like I tried. I was like, I don't think I'm high enough to read this book right now.
It does remind me of reading spatial theory in grad school. Oh my God, where you're just like, am I stupid? Or does this person just not know how to write like a person?
Yeah. And I also think his ideas were quite
wackadoo
out there. Yeah.
I was almost on board too, because I was like, yeah, go off and saying like whatever your natural inclinations are towards your soul of color, like go with that. Yeah, sure. You know what? You like blues? Fuck yeah, you wear blues. I was with him for a minute, and then it just
lost me.
He
Yeah.
really lost me.
I love that you actually understood. You lost me within the first 5 words. I was like, what? Like my brain shorted out.
I mean,
Wow.
I've had some time to sit with this text. Let me tell
true.
you, my brain shorted the first time.
I heard like tonal timbre, and I was like, yes, go there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go off, King.
I want to know. Tell me more about the cadence of my colors.
Tonal timbre. Ooh. Celebrity baby name?
Tonal.
That's all I'm here for this episode.
If I ever have a second kid.
Tonal timbre.
It's to cry, laughing, and...
I'm surprised I haven't met a kid named Timbre yet. Like Amber with a T.
It's going to happen.
Okay, so as far as I can tell, after like the 80s, color analysis kind of goes dark. It feels kind of like a passé, silly thing to get your colors done. At least that's how I thought of it until a couple years ago. What about you both?
Oh, yeah. I remember. So there's a long backstory to this, but basically on my honeymoon, my husband and I ended up with like 4 boomers who are now very near and dear to us. But we like were on this trip together, and because it was like you had to be in a group. And I just have this vivid memory of everyone being drunk at dinner and Susan looking at Cindy and being like, well, she's obviously a winter. And like telling this very vivid story. And that was such an important detail to her. And me being like, what?
Right?
The fuck are you talking about?
It's like a whole other language.
Yeah, thinking it sounded very, very old. And now I hear it and I'm like,
it's like 20-year-olds doing it.
Oh my God. I feel like everyone I know is talking about their colors.
Yeah.
Or it's like Gen Z. Like if we were talking to a bunch of Gen Z kids and talking about whether we're a Miranda or a Carrie.
Yeah.
Like it's just a categorization that is very understood by a specific generation.
Yeah.
And then another generation is like, you're a what? You're a who? What?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, why are we so drawn to these categorizations? Like for a while it's Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram, or is your astrology, it's like we love these things that are sort of like shortcuts for understanding or for expressing who we are to other people. Mm-hmm. And I'm like really like interested in that because they're very addictive. They're very enticing. But they seem to be shortcuts for like actually developing a personality and a sense of yourself.
Woof. Oh my God.
Not
That was
shortcuts. Sorry,
no, no,
not shortcuts
no,
in
no.
that they actually get you there, but like
Right, it
It's like a
feels like
framework. It's a very helpful framework. I
Is
mean,
it
that's
though,
definitely
or
how I feel about.
does it stop us from actually doing that work?
It's how I feel about astrology. I'm a very, I don't want to say anti-astrology, but astrology to me is just complete bunk. And there are some people like, well, it's just because I'm a Virgo. I'm like, calm the fuck down. Like, no, it's not. But at the same time, I'm
Right.
like, well, it's because I'm a Pisces. Sometimes I do say
Yeah,
that. I'm
we
like,
all
I'm
do
easily
it.
adaptable. I'm a Pisces.
I
Yeah.
it's right. I feel like it's really in moments of certainly uncertainty or insecurity or transition in my life, I definitely find myself leaning more onto these things that become identifiers that like feel almost like if not foundational, certainly like studs in the structure of
Right, they feel
my
like something to hold on to.
yeah, like that I can say like, well, I'm a Leo Aquarius rising, so like that's why I'm so balanced.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing of like when this spins out as far as it can go, it's when it becomes a conspiracy theory. Because I think in a world full of chaos where nothing makes sense, we like grabbing onto something that makes sense to us, that puts a little bit of structure and makes it seem like something is ordered, that we fit into a specific thing that helps us make decisions and understand ourselves. And when you spin that out entirely, you have people believing things that completely aren't true because they need something to believe to quell the anxiety within themselves because the world does not make sense the way they want it to. And
Absolutely.
it's like there are ways that this spins out into crazy motherfucker talking about color timbre or whatever it was.
But hear me out for a
Right.
second. McRib with me for one moment. And just is there not something about these identifiers, especially on social media platforms, that is so deeply reminiscent of like Greco-Roman, what gods do you worship? Like there is truly something about the way that we have structured society at this exact moment. And like, are you a color theory person? Like what side of TikTok are you on? Like
Yes.
what
Yes.
temple are you praying to? That like all does touch on the same thing of like, how do you identify?
Oh,
Like
Christina, yes.
yeah.
Who are your people? Like, what do you belong to? Yeah.
On one hand, you're like, that's utterly ridiculous. But on the other hand, you're like, we all need these words and things to help figure out who we
To help
are,
understand
to help understand ourselves. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it can be as silly as, are you an autumn or are you a
but it
summer?
can't
Right.
and it can also be like this thing that unlocks, right? Like being able to self-identify as something can sometimes be so uniquely powerful, especially when it comes to our physical corporal beings. Like if you've been told your whole life that you are unattractive or you have felt somehow less attractive, and someone comes along and says like, you can label all these things, and by the way, you're also a light spring.
Right. You're not unattractive. You're just wearing the wrong colors and you can fix that.
Mhm.
Right. It
Unfortunately, the way
creates
to fix it is by spending money on fashion, but you can do something about it.
right, this idea that like I can fix these foibles or the way that society has viewed me, I can somehow change that, which is like only getting more complicated with the way that like we're dealing with body modifications and filter
Mhm.
consumerism so quickly. But like those and simultaneously, like sometimes those labels can be really helpful. It can make you feel really empowered, and I think it can make you feel like, oh, I love wearing yellow, but like
But I can't.
I can't.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think the problem with all of these things is that they're kind of made up and subjective, and we can try to say it comes from science all we want, but at the end of the day, what looks better or worse can only ever be a matter of opinion.
Mhm.
And I think that, something that I've tried to scratch the surface of a little bit in researching this episode is like, how does white supremacy play in here? How does ageism play in here? How does fat phobia factor in? Like, I notice that when I see a color analysis video, often the right colors are said to be slimming, or they brighten the face, or they slim the jawline. So I feel like we can't escape from these biases. And when we say someone looks better, what do we mean? Better according to what and to whom?
That's the endless conversation too about like
Right.
flattering. The word
Yeah.
flattering. The word flattering is the more contemporary version of slimming. Like
Absolutely.
it's the exact same word, and people are like, that's not flattering. And I'm like, do you mean she doesn't look good, or do you mean she doesn't look skinny? Because those are two different things.
Right. Yeah, so that's just like, I think we can't escape these things, and we need to be like really careful about when we say we're being objective. Like we're not. Like it's not really possible
because we all have very specific beauty standards in our brains that we are pinning certain things to.
Yeah.
And different, targets that we are trying to hit based on what we have culturally in our brains.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the target's always moving.
Oh yeah. And this is another point to me that maybe relates to this, but my sister actually brought this up to me, that she's noticed that critiquing someone's color choices has become another way to like pick people apart, specifically celebrities on social media. And it's interesting that it's like kind of like a quote unquote okay way to criticize how someone looks, because you're not critiquing their body or their appearance. You're just saying they wore the wrong colors, and that's why they look kind of dumpy and frumpy and sickly. And she particularly brought this up in regards to a video of Nicola Coughlan, who is I don't think she's actually plus size in the real world, but she's a larger actress for Hollywood. My sister said it made me feel really uncomfortable. Like I felt like people wanted to critique her for being fat on the red carpet, but they had to settle for critiquing her color choices to say she looked bad.
That is 100%. You know what I also find really interesting about Nicola Coughlan, especially because of in the era of Bridgerton, the amount of queer women who were like, she is fucking hot.
Oh,
like,
banging.
She is
banging.
So hot. She has this incredible, like, the moment that you like separate like male, like so many queer women find her so sexy. And so it's so funny to me to have people like picking her apart because of her body. Cause it's like over on the side of TikTok that I'm on,
right.
we're all like
salivating. Let me drink your bathwater, Nicola Coughlan.
Well, my God. You do have perfect breasts and you like everything about you I want to grab and squeeze. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we talking about her body in any way other than I want to worship it?
The greatest disappointment of my life was not watching that woman get appropriately railed on Bridgerton. She deserved so much more than that fucking sophomore RA frat boy trying to sell her crypto. Like,
honk honk on the boobie and
one honk honk, and she was all about it. Oh, she's so hot.
She's so beautiful. She's so stunning. I don't know if that's going to make it into the final episode, but
all of us salivating over Nicola Coughlan. Yes, that is staying in.
It's staying.
Listen, I've loved that bitch since Dairy Girls.
Yes. Why would you say she's wearing the wrong color? How dare you?
Right? She can wear whatever she wants, and this is the thing. Like, I get it. As a shorthand, we do so much more online shopping now, and I think this is a big reason maybe why it's become so popular.
Oh, that's interesting.
We buy so many things online, and it's helpful to have a sort of we don't know what things are going to look like on us, so it's helpful to be like, oh yeah, I know I look good in maroon. I don't really look good in light blue. So I'm not going to waste time ordering the wrong color. And it does it does make shopping easier because there's a lot of things that I just don't consider buying. And that for me personally is very helpful as someone that needs to weed out options. But I think it also gets into this like restrictive thing where it's like, oh, you like that? You shouldn't wear it. You're going to look bad.
I also just feel like makeup and lighting has so much to do with all of this. And in a world of cameras, like in a world where so much is photographed and not actually seen in real life, like so much is done for consumption on the internet. Yeah. Like I look completely fucking different in an outfit depending on how much bronzer I have on.
Right. Right.
Completely different.
My gender presentation changes with fucking eyeliner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think these should all be choices that we are free to make. And as long as we like the way we look, like, who the fuck cares?
Carol cares.
Who the fuck
Carol really gives a shit. And she's objective.
Carol cares. Oh, Carol has the science to back it up.
In the biggest air quotes I've ever seen in my life. Science.
Can we talk about the MLM?
Oh, I can't wait, Carol. Let's lead it on. Come on.
So just in terms of like, what does this cost? What does this cost people to do this? So there are hundreds of virtual options on Etsy, averaging, I would say, around $50 to $100 for a basic assessment.
Which doesn't make sense.
Google, why do you say that?
Because the whole point, my understanding, the whole point of color analysis, like having your colors done, is to see how light reflects off of the color and then off of your skin. That's the point of the drapes. You put the drapes up to see what, like, the drape absorbs some color, it reflects it onto your face, like what looks best on your personal complexion. And that has to be done in person. Virtually, it doesn't make any sense. Just be
and
like,
they try to tell you, you know, wear a gray t-shirt, take a picture in natural light, and they like Photoshop different colors on you. But you're right, it's not.
That's not how that works. No. Like it negates the purpose of like for all the bunk and woo-woo that it is, there is still like legitimately a thing that they are trying to do here, and to see how it reflects off of your skin. So. Yeah, doing it digitally is just sort of like, it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't everyone? There's so many options to pay people to do this on Etsy, on TikTok, on Instagram.
And we've all seen the videos of like influencers and other people's having their colors done, and it looks exactly like all of us at the makeup counter at the beginning when they finish your makeup and they say, "Do you love it?" And you just go,
"You love it." You have to say, "You're like."
Yes,
you're being conditioned. You're being like psychologically conditioned to be like, "Yes, I've never looked better."
I have gotten terrible haircuts. Terrible. And looked in the mirror and been like, fantastic.
I love it.
I love it. Yes.
Well, because also at that point, what are you going to do? You have to go home.
Stuck with it. Yeah.
I just see them, and you could see everyone like suddenly having this confirmation bias as the person behind them is like, don't you notice? And they're like, yes.
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I watch those and I go, can't tell a fucking difference.
Right. But it's like a mass hysteria. We're like, yes, I see it. It does brighten the whites of her eyes. Yes. Oh my God. It is.
It is the emperor has no clothes, and one of us is like, "Hey guys, he is naked. That is a naked royal."
It really blows my mind.
Yeah. Do you want to? Let's talk more about how much money people spend on this.
Oh, Can't wait.
Google says the average cost of a session is $100 to $300, and typically in a session you would also. They'll also sell you your palettes and your color books, so you have these swatches to go with you.
Oh, yeah. Because that's a big thing. They'll be like, it must be this exact pink.
Yes.
You have to wear this, not just any pink.
Not just any pink, but you have, you have shell pink, but you don't have magenta.
Yeah.
You're supposed to take these with you when you shop.
I just love the idea of like someone pulling the kids don't have wallets anymore, so I don't know where they're like these are just like
books.
Fucking floating around in the bottom of their tote bag.
Like the magician with the mini scarves coming out.
I'm amazed there isn't an app for there's got to be an app for this.
I'm sure there is.
Like, because it just makes me
it on
think
your
of
forearm
like
forever.
Again, like being a Weight Watchers person, having to like scan everything and it tells you your points.
Like, I just dated myself talking about a slide rule.
I never had to do the slide rule. I only had
we had a cardboard slide rule. Okay, but there are more elaborate expert sessions that may cost more. One service I found charges $200 for a single session and around $800 for a deluxe package that includes, get this, a 45-minute phone chat with an expert. Now, here's where it gets
about really... what? Your pap smear? Like, what are you talking about?
A color expert, Christina. A color expert.
Aren't they there? Isn't that the session?
Like, what is
happening? I guess you can call them for support later on.
For a color emergency?
Help, it's a color emergency.
My tonal amber is off.
Oh, boy. So here's where it gets really wild. So training as a color analyst, which is where the real money is, can start at a few hundred to a couple $1,000s for courses. It's as with anything, they get you to take multiple courses to be certified and to like recertify at higher and higher levels. Starting a House of Color franchise, you can start your own business.
Be your own boss.
How much do you think the buy-in is to start a franchise?
Oh, God. In the 80s? Or are we adjusting for inflation?
What do you think it is now? What do you think it is now?
I'm going to say it's a cool $4,000.
Oh, Christina, wow. I was going to go $2,000.
It requires this is to start a franchise. This is not to just be an independent color analyst. Mm-hmm. It requires a minimum buy-in of $20,000.
Shut the fuck up.
That's a minimum buy-in.
For a stack of swatches and some...
It's a business opportunity, Elizabeth.
Some Joann's fabric stitched together.
can be my own boss.
The Joseph and Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, they're just swiping across everyone's chest.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Shut
$20,000.
As a minimum, it can go. I've read different things. Some of them went as high as like 36,000. I don't know if that buy-in includes your training courses. I have a feeling it doesn't.
That's a Honda.
That's a Honda. That's a down payment on a house.
On a champagne Cadillac.
That you too could earn with your own team. I don't understand.
I do. Listen, we all have friends from high school who have sent you the message that, hey girl, I'd love to tell you about a business opportunity, or invited to a Facebook group for somebody who's selling essential oils or shapes.
Is it Arbonne Cosmetics?
Yeah.
I've been asked to come learn about Arbonne.
It is one of the many things that if a woman feels like she doesn't have any options, and I know someone from high school who has bought into 3 different MLMs because she is really financially insecure. She's got to some people are grasping at straws, and they think, again, is this the thing that's going to change my life? Is this the investment? It's the exact same impulse as this the investment that I need to make to turn my life around.
And I don't judge anyone who needs to do that. I really don't. And I'm sure some people have had amazing success stories with it too. That's what's so difficult, is I am sure there is someone out there who's like, wow, that really did change my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that one person, that spokesperson for the whole thing. That's how
one exception.
That's how they get the thousands, millions of other people who will never make money.
And it's also the person who is really good. It's a marriage of different things. It's not just knowing how to do people's colors. It's being a natural salesperson. Right. It's being charming. It's being persuasive. It's all of that stuff that can't really be taught. That's kind of a more inherent quality. Yeah. So there are several ways that you can try to fool someone into being a color analyst, and then they're not successful because it's they're not good at sales, or they're not very good at managing their own business, or they can't make time for it.
Or now the market is flooded and there's not enough clients to go around. So yeah, TLDR, it's really subjective. Mm-hmm. It has ties to some weird and dubious stuff, including some pseudoscience. And it is an MLM.
It is in fact an MLM. Wait. Are you going to do our colors, though? Because I do still want them.
Okay, I'll tell you what I think. Christina.
Wait, hang on. I got to change my... Hold on.
Despite
Alexa,
the fact
turn on daytime.
This is all painful and a little, bajiggity. I do want to know what my colors are. Okay. Thank you.
Christina, I've spent a lot of time with you, and you're really hard to type. I think, however, that you sit right between the spring and summer palette.
Interesting. Which
probably makes you, I think, and I'm going to be wrong because I can't drape you in person, and I didn't take Carol's class. I think you might be a light summer or a light spring, but I think you might be a light summer because I think you lean a little bit more to the cool side of neutral, but you're very light and bright. But sort of soft. And I think of the celebrities that are often typed as light summers, they include Michelle Pfeiffer.
Thank you.
Margot Robbie. And I think that you kind of share coloring with them. So that's what I would say for you. I'm not an expert.
Okay, so I've sometimes seen the light summer, but then anytime I see summer, they always tell me to dye my hair my dishwater gray blonde that it is naturally.
Light summers can be blonde.
Okay, thank God, because it's all everyone I know keeps being old money blonde, and I was like, your hair looks like shit. I'm sorry. I'm sure some people look great with it, so anyone who has it, please ignore me, but I look like shit with that hair color.
As long as you don't wear pigtails.
A lot of the times with summers, they say it's kids who were very blonde as children whose hair darkened.
I always think of that line Amy Poehler says in Baby Mama where she's trying to rinse the dye out of her hair and she's like, I was blonde as a kid. You don't understand.
People who are blonde as children hang on to that for the rest of their fucking lives.
You know what? Let us live.
Somebody with jet black hair was like, I was blonde as a child. You're like, okay.
Can I tell you, I almost pulled it. I'm so sorry I don't have it. But in Maria Maria Oakey Dewing's book from 1881, there's a snippet where she drags women who were blonde as children, who now have darker hair, dressing as though, she says something like, "This shade of blue has always suited my hair," but she speaks of the hair she has not yet had since 20 years past.
She gets it. She fucking gets it. It's the one thing we have in common. I was like,
wow,
it.
people have always been dragging these women.
I feel attacked.
I'm so sorry that I don't have the exact quote, but it knocked me on my ass.
Wow. You know what? You don't get it.
Apparently I don't.
You just don't know what it's like to be taken from natural glory.
You're perfect. Right. I think you should try out the light summer palette and get back to me.
Will do.
Let me know what you think. Elizabeth.
Yes.
I think you and I sit very close together on the color season spectrum, but I think you might be a touch cooler and more high contrast than me. I mean, you're much cooler as a person, but in terms of your neutral skin tone, I think you might lean slightly neutral cool. Now, I've only seen you in person a couple of times, and it was a long time ago. So take this with the biggest crystal of Malden sea salt.
Good salt.
But I think you might be a dark winter, which is like the sister palette of my palette. But that would make you just a little bit cooler and a little bit darker and more high contrast than me.
I can see it.
Sister palette.
Word sister palette.
Sister palette, not sister wives. Sister palettes. Very important
That's
distinction.
my assessment, but I have not seen you in natural light, maybe ever. So don't.
It's true. We worked together on a stage.
Don't quote me on that.
Reverend Mother and Sister Palette here need to have a meet.
But those are my thoughts, and I'll just leave
I think that's true though, because it's like a Katy Perry, right, or a Zoe Deschanel.
They're like bright, true winters.
Oh, got it. Right.
So the only difference,
neither bright nor true.
Duh. The only difference with Elizabeth would be that you sit a little bit more towards neutral than being truly cool toned in your skin.
I'm neutrally cool.
Yeah.
Neutral.
I'm a neutral cool. I'm just a laid back. I'm not like other girls.
But I suspect that like really like rich jewel tones look good on you.
Oh yeah.
That's a dark winter trait. Whereas I look better in like jewel tones that have been toned with black. So like more earthy, saturated tones.
Put me in a magenta and I am a happy gal.
Trini Woodall would say dirty jewel tones.
Dirty jewel tones.
Muddy jewel tones.
Exactly. That's my jam.
Muddy Jewel Tones is the actual name of the festival our jam band will be performing at.
So yeah, now that we all know who we are and we like have a personality type to ascribe to, I'll just say, if color season analysis helps you and makes you feel good, then by all means go for it. But just remember that it is highly subjective. It has some weird pseudoscientific origins, and that it's probably being used to sell you something, either directly or indirectly. So like, wear what you want to. Just remember to let yourself glow.
How dare you?
How dare you? Any final thoughts?
I mean, amazing.
How are you going to apply the knowledge of your color season to your life?
I'm going to go and rip out all of my clothes in my closet and start from scratch.
There you go. That's
the only
what you
way.
should do. Yeah.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please tell your friends and be sure to follow us on social media at Vanity Veritas Pod. We'll be back in a few weeks. In the meantime, remember, trends come and go, but vanity is timeless.